Hey, Michael.
What's going on?
Nothing much. How are you, man?
I'm outstanding, making the impossible possible.
Whoa. How do you do that?
Well, I started out. I started out battling traffic like I was Batman, and then got to my desk and tried to log in and realized that I did not have a speaker,
Oh,
and so we were hunting down the speaker in the guest house. But we found it. We're on time. We made it.
I would have never known, man. The setup's good. The composure's good.
That's my whole life is make it look good.
Dude, yeah, I definitely agree. You got the beard as is looking as good as usual.
It's a little thin. It was down to here for during Christmas time. We do like a live nativity with a church, and
You're kidding.
but we have live animals and all that kind of stuff. But it's just more than I can bear. So we had to I have to trim it down before spring comes. Or man, that heat starts to become brutal, and the bugs get in it, and it's rough.
Hey, you know what happens when the bugs get in it? Then it becomes food for the birds.
Well, maybe it's protein to help it grow back.
Yeah.
I've a
Look,
hard time there.
Matt, come see Michael. Do you remember Michael? This is who bought my desk in Wilmington, Army of David.
Hey, Michael. No, I don't know if we met.
Oh, man, you doing all
It's
right?
well,
I'm doing great. Doing great. It's nice to meet you. Yeah, I don't think we met. I would remember.
Hey, you don't have to remember this old fat ugly guy, man. I remember you guys.
well, yeah, you could. David bought or Michael, I'm sorry, bought a desk for me in Wilmington, and he runs a company called Army of David. It's named after like King David,
Wow.
and he has a garage door company, and we're
That's
doing
awesome.
a podcast. So I thought that you maybe
You're doing a podcast?
yeah, we're doing a podcast.
Oh, that's so cool. Did I just interrupt it?
No, we haven't really started.
Well, you were invited over to say hello, so you can't be an interruption.
There you
Yeah,
go.
true.
Well, Michael, it's amazing to meet you, man, and God bless you, and I hope this podcast is great.
No, that's what's up. I'll take that. Thank you. Right back at you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, y'all have a good one. It's good to see you.
Yeah, you too, brother.
See you, man.
Well, I think you might have met my other friend Kyle, not Matt. But either way, I thought of Matt when you mentioned big beards because he's got a competitively sized one.
I mean, honestly, I thought maybe you had half a dozen brothers, and that was just one of your brothers running around in the background.
No, I've got two brothers. One of them is my business partner, Seth.
Gotcha.
It's fun.
Gotcha.
Everyone in our family has like a biblical name. Seth is my oldest brother, and then my middle brother's Aaron, and then my little sister is Trinity, and then I'm Carson.
You were the reprieve.
Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking. They just were like, yeah, we're gonna throw a curveball here, and then they went back to the biblical stuff. Or I don't even know. I guess, yeah, I guess it's all of Christ. Trinity is not necessarily biblical, but it's derivative of the Bible. So,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I love it. It's great. Maybe they were watching the Carson show and just got caught up.
Yeah, yeah. I've gotten that one quite a few times. Apparently, he was a big name.
Well, it's the only Carson I know other than you. So I wish I could throw another reference out there and be witty, but you're stuck with that one, man.
Yeah, awesome. I'll take it. So I don't have too much time today.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm kind of happy to include the beginning as sort of like the raw intro. Maybe make multiple copies of this. I'm gonna have my editor chop it up, and we can produce a bunch of this. So if there's anything you like, then you can get the copy and you can use it.
Okay.
But I don't know. Have you ever done a podcast like this before?
Um, no, I've done some live, some Facebook live with some realtors where we kind of just talked about business and more conceptual things, less hands-on kind of the daily grind kind of thing. I recently, matter of fact, did one. Was it Saturday or Sunday?
Yeah,
Um,
just this
my
Sunday.
wife, my wife remembers everything, but I believe It was Saturday. So Saturday, I drove up to see a friend of mine who's a realtor, and we did we were going to do a live business show, and his live equipment was not live. So he was having some bugs, and he's doing the same thing. So I think we ran about 30 minutes, and he's going to, chop it up and master it and kind of utilize it as best he can. But I really enjoy it. So it's and seeing what you're doing with some of your live stuff. It's always just good to see you. One, because we both love the Lord, but two, because I see you out there grinding, man, and that makes me proud. I know I'm nobody. My being proud of anybody doesn't matter to anybody, but I'm proud to see you making it happen, man.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a grind, and I definitely appreciate people like you to give me encouragement, because I was just writing about this not 10 minutes ago, and then I read Romans 8, and I was thinking, it was derived from a podcast I listened to yesterday. But there's always two ways that I feel like we can look at things. We can look at everything from a positive lens or a negative lens. And I was having a conversation with my business partner, and we were just talking about growing the sales side and thinking about more offers and just how to continue to grow our company. And I was getting so stressed. I was like, I wanted nothing to do with the conversation. And then I reflect, like, there's other days where I'm fired up about the very same conversation. And I think just listening to what you said, which that encouragement is a reminder of how there's always two ways to look at every situation we're in, right? I can look at it with an optimistic perspective or a negative perspective. And I think it's easy to fall into the trap of the negative. But yeah, I don't really know how I'm tying Romans 8 into this, but I know that Romans 8 was brought up on the podcast, and there might be some verses in Romans 8 that relate to what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great.
Well, anyways, I really want to make this all about you and learn more about your business, Michael, because we never really got a huge chance to go into it when we met originally. When I sold you the desk on Facebook, and I hope that the desk is still in use today.
We are still using it today.
Yeah.
I believe I met you, 2020?
Yeah, it was probably maybe 2021, 2020.
So we sold a mountain house in 2019 in the summer, and came out here to the coast. My wife grew up out here at the coast, and after 6 boys named David, we found out we were finally going to have a little girl. And so my wife wanted to have our little girl near her family, and she's got quite a bit of family out here. And so that's kind of what generated the movement toward the coast from up in the Boone area. And we kind of bootstrapped this business just off, the proceeds that we earned from our house after renovating the house for 8 years, because it was going to be our forever home. I just gotten the kitchen done and granted in, and we decided to move. So the Lord blessed us through that with enough money to get out here to the coast and get back into the family industry of garage doors, because we've been in it a long time, and a lot of family members in this industry. And we're passionate about it in a lot of ways, even though I've been in and out of project work and product development, and I've got a pretty varied background in that kind of thing. I think I've always kind of liked to be in over my head or underwater a little bit, because I like to show people that I can overcome adversity. And it's been, since I was a little boy, it's just been my life's passion to step up to the plate when somebody said I couldn't do something, or when I felt like I had an axe to grind or a chip on my shoulder. But anyway, we moved out here in July of 19. My wife pregnant with 6 children without me for a month, and that was a tough assignment. So and I got here, we kicked off Army of Davids in August. We had our little girl in October. My wife had heart failure in December, was told she wouldn't live 90 days, and in January, COVID rolled around. So not from a from a flesh perspective, not the most opportune time to start a business. The dynamics of it, though, were different. Most big companies were shutting down or shuttering, trying to figure out what to do. And we're just working with reckless abandon on anything anybody will let us touch.
Yeah.
So the Lord led us through that. He gave us a lot of work when other companies couldn't come out or wouldn't come out. We really were able to start our ground game of building our brand awareness and start to kind of build what our brand was going to be about, right? The DNA of what we wanted to be and what we wanted to do. We're not like other businesses in our industry. We've got a very small footprint. We're very dialed into a niche that allows us to be very dynamic. And I think it would challenge a lot of bigger companies. I think they would hurt themselves trying to do kind of what we do. But the Lord's given us a great opportunity.
Yeah, no, that's like amazing, just the pivot. And you mentioned, garage doors being in the family. Wait, where is it that you moved from? Can you remind me again?
Yeah, so I actually moved to the coast from Lenoir, North Carolina, which is just below Boone.
Okay, cool.
And
Yeah.
so most people don't know Hickory, North Carolina, or Lenoir, North Carolina. So I say it's between Charlotte, Boone, and Asheville. That kind of gives them a little bullseye. It's around that area.
Is Lenoir-Rhyne in that area?
So Lenoir-Rhyne is down in Hickory, North Carolina, just below Lenoir.
Okay, got it. Yeah. All right, it's cool. So you're North Carolina native.
Yeah. So I was, my dad was 22 years Navy. All my brothers and sisters, I believe, three brothers and a sister born in San Diego, have golden locks, much like yourself, and look like sun kids, And I got the draw of Groton, Connecticut, this dreary snow-filled sub base, and but my father retired very shortly after my birth and moved us back to North Carolina. So
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
pretty much born and raised. Other than my father passed away when I was young, and my mother moved us off to Florida, got remarried. So I spent my high school years near Gainesville, Florida, University of Florida area.
Nice.
Then I went to military after high school, 10th Mountain Combat Aviation. So did that. When I got out, I was in Tennessee for a couple of years before I came back home to Carolina.
Quite the background. So for everyone listening, obviously, being an entrepreneur and getting into this space, what did not start immediately, right? You had a lot of things that you did prior to running your own business, like serving in the military, which I thank you for. I do want to I want to touch on branding because I feel like you mentioned branding and your brand is so unique. Can you explain kind of how you came up with the Army of David's Garage Doors and then how that impacts the growth of your company? Yeah, there we go.
And you can see a retired gunny made this teak board, Army of David's, for me. A lot of failure, to be honest. Failure is a phenomenal teacher. Even when I wasn't failing the right way. I mean, sometimes you just fail it and you don't know why you're failing, how you're failing. You just figure it out. You're just out there in the deep trying to figure out how to swim so you don't drown. And two, I was not a very focused person until my wife spent 15 years raising me. So a lot of people would call that a lack of maturity, but I finally figured it out pretty late. But I had a lot of experiences through different opportunities, different men in my life who invested in me when I wasn't worth investing in, and teaching me things. I got to spend a year here with a mentor and a year there with a mentor. So I have 4 or 5 mentors that I can count that have really invested in my life in a very impactful, intentional small space of time, but have continued to be lifelong friends. And they've watched me fail over and over and over again in a lot of different ways, and just encouraged me and in some spaces were able to give me a hand up, and sometimes you're just, other people are going through life too. They don't always have a life raft to throw to you. So I'm a big risk taker, which I don't advise for everyone. Like, it's scary. Your wife has to have like just a heart of gold and nerves of steel to let you be a risk taker like I am. But I've always believed the verse where the Lord says, "You make your plans and I'll direct your steps." And so I try to align my goals with the Lord. We get to tell our testimony everywhere we go. We meet 4 or 5 homeowners a day, and it really is a beautiful opportunity to witness with people. But to kind of go back to how we got here and how we built our brand and our brand awareness, obviously 6 sons named David, David Josiah, David Elisha, David Jeremiah, if I don't mess this up, David Michael, David Ethan, and David Ariel. We call the OG David, the first one. He's 20 now, and he's got a lot of years of experience being in the truck with me. And my second boy is, we call him Elisha, and everybody goes by their middle name but the older boy. And then our little girl, instead of naming her David, we kind of took a Star Wars turn. It was kind of like Carson, just out of the blue. We named her Leia, like Princess Leia.
Nice. That's a good one.
But when you're as cool as you are, being kind of set apart and different, it's a good thing.
Yeah. I embrace the creative name, and I'm sure Leia will. How old is she now?
But she's 5. Wow. And she's a breath of fresh air, because boys you kind of just pop them and tell them what to do, or grab them and sternly give them direction, and they're off to the races. My oldest boy, since the time he was maybe 6 or 7 or 8, has been 40 years old. I mean, he's very mature, very dialed in, has it all together. Like, he's really a unicorn among his peers. He loves the Lord. He's very focused. Doesn't really care for anybody to teach him anything. Just likes to learn everything on his own. He learned how to digitally make sound and music and master music, do music production, and then he learned how to read music and learned how to play piano and guitar. And but after 8 guitars, I was like, that's enough. Like, you've bought enough guitars.
Yeah, it becomes a little bit of an addiction at that point. But it's a good addiction, right? It's a good thing. Like, most people are my age, we're stuck on our phones. And so to have something else that's actually tangible and, it's a skill is super invaluable. So your brand is so strong and it has a backstory. And I do think branding can be the difference maker for a lot of people if they're trying to decide between maybe you and a couple others out in the field. So how have you seen branding impact your company in just in like a sales perspective, but also maybe like just how you view it and how it inspires you, like overall? I mean, take this wherever you think it should go.
I would say a lot of people fail at branding. And it's because they want a cool picture and a cool name, and they try to take those things, and then it's like a racehorse that they're betting on, For us, our brand is very intuitive. It's very easy because it is our testimony. It speaks about the ethos of who and what we are. It's not just my 6 sons. I get to tell my testimony through my brand. At 6 years old, my father was a good man, but he also had an issue with alcohol, and he was also violent. And that was hard. That was hard to walk through. When I was 6 years old, I asked the Lord into my heart. I asked Jesus, I said, if you'll give me a son born on my birthday, I'll know he's from you, and I'll name him after King David in the Bible. And I promise to be a better father than my father. And that's a really deep thing to to think and to talk out when you're 6. And I don't recommend every 6-year-old run around and ask Christ in their life. I think there's some more maturity and age that comes with it. But for me, I knew just as much about salvation at 6 as I do today. Now I know more about the Lord and the Word and all those things. But I knew I needed Jesus. I knew I wanted to be better than what I was seeing around me. And 20 some years later, I met my wife, who was told she couldn't have children, insist on her own. Her body didn't cycle efficiently, and it was tough. But 2 years into the marriage, my oldest boy was born on my birthday, just like I'd asked the Lord for. And I said, God, if you're that faithful, I'll name him all David. I didn't know I'd have any more. And we tease people about my wife being pregnant the whole time we've been married, but the Lord just kept blessing us with sons, and it just became. I knew it was building to something. I didn't know where it was going. I didn't know where I was going. I tell you, I was not reliable, accountable. Like, I've been a mess the majority of my life, until one day I woke up. I said, "Hey, I've got to take care of my wife and my kids, give them a good example, and I want to be a good husband and a good father and a good brother and a good friend. I want to be a good son of God, right?" And it was a choice that was a turning for me. And it's we played with that idea and talked about it with friends for a long time, our testimony. But to be able to start Army of David's Garage Doors, and I was in the Army, and a lot of people think of it as, oh, Army, okay, he was a military guy. But when they put those pieces together and we get to tell them our testimony, like, that's authentic, right? You can't fake that. People know BS when they hear it, or aggrandizement and those kind of things. But for us, we really believe in servanthood. King David was a servant. We really believe in being bold, and our business is focused on serving those who serve. We're in a military area, right? We've got the MARSOC and Camp Lejeune up here north of us. And so we wanted to be a business of integrity and character, one that honored the Lord in the things that we said and did. We offer a premium same-day service, which is important to people. If they have a problem, they don't want to wait for a company to schedule something 4 or 5 days out. So there's a lot of contractor grade stuff out here at the coast. So we wanted to give people premium products, premium timing, and instead of just selling them stuff, we wanted to give them a premium experience. And so we really spend a lot of time fellowshipping with our customers. Sometimes we take a 10-minute job and we just spend an hour just loving on our customer, getting to know them. And it's been a blessing, and it fulfills us just as much as it fulfills them. And we've gotten the job sometimes, be old grumpy guy, and he don't want to talk. He's mad. He's got to spend money. We play a little Frank Sinatra and tell our testimony. Next thing you know, he's tapping his toes and singing a little bit to old Frank. But the fellowship is important. I think our country as a whole, our culture as a whole, we've lost fellowship. Everything's become about iPad, iPhone, me, that kind of thing. And fellowship is so enriching to people's lives when you can fellowship with people, like we're doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a, like, again, from somebody that's lived more life than me and has more experience, and you've watched the world shift from the handwritten letter to the text message and everything in between. I think that it's easy for us to, like, somebody in my generation, to like lose touch and forget about fellowship, and everything's about numbers right now. And even in my head, I fall victim to this. When you think about growing and scaling Army of David's Garage Doors, I mean, are you consistently pursuing a new growth goal year after year? Are you more just trying to deliver that top tier service and letting things come? Like, how do you manage scaling the business when you also have that fellowship mindset?
You're right in my wheelhouse with this question. Like, we're living this idea of what does it look like to us, right? I tried to, at first it was just about bootstrapping and getting started. And then I wanted to build fast and hard. And it was a hard time to do it in, right? COVID era was a difficult opportunity to do that in. And I've been a part of some businesses in the past where, we were able to scale, and I learned some efficiencies in the process of scaling and growing. For us, I tried to grow too fast, and we ended up putting ourselves in a situation that was not favorable in 2023, and we paid the price for that. Another lesson learned, another failure. But again, I don't look as failure. I don't get crushed by failure. I don't want failure, but failure has taught me so much, and it's a hard teacher, right? It's those lessons you don't forget. It's kind of like the movie The Kingdom of Heaven. I don't know if you've seen that movie about knights. It's got the elf from Lord of the Rings in it. But anyway, his father's teaching his son something. He slaps him, and the kid says, "What's that for?" And he said, "That's so you remember." And then he slapped him again. And he goes, "Well, what's that for?" He said, "That's so you don't forget." Hard lessons in life are also often taught that way. You get slapped up a couple times by life, and you know how life can be rough, man. We've had times where I was like, "Lord, I don't have the ability to provide for my family. I hope you'll do it, because you are what I trust in, not myself." And the Lord is a great provider, and his grace is sufficient all day, every day. But there's many, many ways to scale incorrectly, to do it too fast, to do it with debt or credit, or, sometimes you just got to go out there and enjoy the grind, right? Like guys that surf, they're out there beating those waves and beating that sand and beating that heat all day long, day after day after day after day. Like those guys their skin's like leather, man. They're tough in the grind, and then next thing you know, they're a master. But it took 1,000 fails to get there, and so I look at life much like that, and I wish that more people would have that internal. I don't know what the right word to use for it is, but that fortitude to just not fear failure, not fear not knowing what to do. Like, go out there, grind it. It's going to work out, right? And if it doesn't, you learn 6 or 7 ways to not do it again that way. And, because not everybody has time to, show you Legos, right? They don't have time to show you building blocks and how you put this together and directions for this and that. Even mentors, men I trust and value, they don't have enough time to always have an ear out for me, to just pour into me. And, sometimes I just go to the Lord and say, "Lord, you'll have to show me how to figure this one out," now we're focused on grinding and bringing on another of my sons this year after the summer, full time. And we've got a second truck on the road now. But I don't want to get into the numbers, because numbers can be very deceptive. You could say I do $1 million revenue a year and make absolutely
Right.
You're giving debtors all of your interest on that. You could be leveraging your accounts very poorly with your vendors, and everything you sell is going to pay for the last 10 things you ordered. You're not really ahead of the game. And we positioned ourselves a couple times where we were doing it wrong and had to back up and punt and say, "Hey, this isn't working." So we've got to get leaner, meaner, and stay to our core of fellowship, and what we've learned is that even when economically, like what's going on right now, some turmoil, and people are afraid of it, but we've built so many relationships in 5 years. Even when people aren't finding us on Google, people we took care of 3 or 4 years ago are calling us and saying, "Hey, you did this for me, and now I'm in a new house and I need a new this," or "I've got a family that's moved to the area and they want to build a house. They want you to sell them doors." So, those seeds that we planted back then by just staying the course, right? We had a lot of 11 o'clock nights, and most guys aren't willing to work that hard. Most guys don't want to grind that hard. They'll grind it out to 5 or 6. And I know we're closing in on your time, but I'm really enjoying talking with you, and I'll let you go whatever direction you want to. But you've got to be willing to outwork the next guy. That's why Elon Musk sleeps on the floor of his warehouses and his gigafactories. And, he tells you, if you'll outwork the next guy, he can't catch you no matter how good he is or how smart he is, because you're putting more time and effort into it. It's hard for people to compete with somebody that'll outwork them.
Yeah, it is. It's that's such good advice, and I think it has me thinking a little bit about like other garage door companies, right? Do you look at other garage door companies in your area that maybe are, and again, I want to bring it kind of back to scaling because that's what's on my mind right now, and maybe we can have part 2 or 3 and I can go totally different directions. But do you look at the like growth that other garage door companies see and think, okay, I want to get to that level? And if that's a yes, kind of how you find, like, how have you decided where you want this company to go in terms of like that big goal? And are you there yet? Like, I don't know if that was kind of a multifaceted question, but
no, but it was all in sync. So I've got new labor coming every 2 years, right? For a few years, because how many children I have, and even they've all got logoed shirts. Even my little girl at 5 years old will put her shirt on some morning to say, "Hey, I'm ready to go to work," and that's a beautiful thing, for your kids to admire what you do and want to be a part of that. And I think my kids are passionate about what we're building. But if you're a master craftsman, an artisan, it's not about speed. It's about not necessarily perfection, because sometimes the beauty is in the flaws. We want to build purposely, like with very intentional building. We tried to do it a little too fast a couple years ago, and it came back to bite us. And my older son's very wise. He's like, "Hey, let's slow down, like a slow burn, right? And be more effective at what we're doing." And so we really focused on becoming more efficient in every little thing that we touch, and processes and things like that. There's a way to make more revenue with 2 trucks and 3 or 4 guys than there is to run 10 trucks. We can make more profit, and I can pay myself more as a founder than companies that are doing $10 million of revenue. And I've had many conversations over the last few years with owners of companies that are doing north of $5 million, north of $10 million. And I said, "Hey, there's a way to effectively do this, and then there's a way to just bulk do it, right?" And I'm a bulk shopper. I go to Sam's all the time. I like to buy in bulk. What I find is when you buy in bulk, you don't appreciate as much, so you blow through the stuff a lot faster because you're more careless with it. And so if you're building at a pace that's intentional, and out there erect the biggest erector set you can, you're going to have a lot of empty spaces and poor foundational, issues, and poor columns. You're going to have all kind of little gaps that you'll have to clean up later, or you'll have a bad culture. And I've been in places with bad cultures. I've been in places that had 300, 400, 500 employees, where the culture really stunk. They had a process. They were able to make money, but nobody enjoyed it. Nobody liked it. Nobody wanted to be a part of it. And you have a lot of turnover. I want to build a legacy such that people that come and join what we're building believe in our vision more than we believe in our vision, right? So kind of my goal is I don't want it to if we hit 10 trucks, that's great. And we can take the next 5 years and with the right money and investment and we could do that, right? It's doable. I've scaled some companies before, from less than $1 million to 2.4, $2.5 million in 24 months. It's easier playing with somebody else's money than it's playing with your money, though. Decisions are a little tougher. The grind is a little different. But I think if we stay intentional and we honor the Lord with the things we say and do, that organically He's going to let us grow and scale. And that's not the perfect answer for everybody, but man, it's a beautiful answer. I think if people really understood the nuts and bolts of what I just said, the wisdom that's really behind that, like they could probably scale more effectively, even if they scaled faster. But if they really put some principles behind what they were doing and had a little more depth of thought to how they were scaling, I think they would have they would have a more beautiful product and give their end users a much better experience. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. I mean, I don't want to oversimplify everything you've said, but genuinely, you're the kind of business owner that runs with integrity. And so I say, the three principles, it's honesty, integrity, and service. And you hit all of those with what you said. And I think it's the harder reality for some people. I think the youth, like I'm speaking maybe to somebody of my generation, you might hit the nail on the head with somebody of yours with what we've said so far. And I think it's easy to want all the glamour. Like I think social media has really affected that. And so we want big money, and it doesn't mean it will cut corners to make that happen. And so I'm only now early into the business space, so I don't know if that's existed prior to me, wanting the glamour and wanting it so bad. But it seems to me like it's more prevalent because of like social media and stuff. And what you're saying to everyone listening, again, not to put words in your mouth or anything, but it's perform a service that you like, that you truly believe is serving those people at the highest level, even if that means that your growth pattern is it's not straight up.
Not
maybe
a hockey stick. Yeah.
Diagonal line.
Not a hockey stick.
Yeah.
I think you said something very important early on, though. You were talking about I hope I didn't lose my thought here. Shoot, I did lose my thought. Anyway, I think it's probably because we're wrapping up here, and I feel like I'm taking advantage here.
This would be the perfect opportunity if you want to impart some final words to the audience, just summarizing everything. Maybe what you said will come back to you, or maybe you come back later.
It's really about love, right? The Lord tells us to love other people as we love ourselves. And you hit the nail on the head when you're talking about how, we've become very self-centered culture. And I love how you take ownership and say my generation, but it's really prevalent across a broad spectrum in our culture, right? It's me focused. But if you focus on loving other people, like really caring about people, and that's what fellowship, you're spending time, and it emanates off you. Like that's something I was very passionate about when I met you. It's like, you love people, you spent time, like you really cared. You didn't have to care about us. You didn't have to talk to us, or you could have been curt with us. It could have been just a financial transaction, that desk, right? But that transaction was done in a way of fellowship and love and being courteous and just gracious. People don't forget those things. When you build a brand, if you build that brand that way, your customers will be your brand champions. They will outlive your fire. They'll take a fire, make it bigger than the fire that you started with. And sometimes you lose a little bit of passion, right? Because the grind is hard. And people that you've ignited with your passion will come back and reignite you over time. And that's really a beautiful reciprocal thing. That really, when you invest in other people, whether it's through gifts or service or so many different ways to do it, like those things come back around. And I'm not talking about like a Zen thing or a karma thing. I'm talking about there's real principles to the Word of God and real principles to loving people and how that affects you and how that affects people around you and the things that you do. And I really believe that as founders and entrepreneurs, like this is not for the faint of heart, kids, right? Like you're doing it, you're walking it right now in your life, Carson. And it is a daunting thing to do. But you've got to in your heart of hearts, you have to be okay eating a pack of ramen for dinner and being grateful for that pack of ramen. Like you've got to be okay with it to a point where like I can appreciate this just as much as you appreciate a $300 Ruth Chris dinner.
Right.
Like the dinners will come. You'll have those days. But some days there's so much more sweetness in a bologna sandwich and the people you're having that bologna sandwich with than there's ever in that $300 meal with people who may not appreciate you or care about you. It's so much more superficial on a grander scale, but it's so much more intentional and purposeful when it's tightly packed and tightly built and tightly round around people that you're investing your life into. So I really like something that two people said. Gary V, who's verbally probably not the best guy to put out there because he's got a potty mouth, but he tells you to go be intentional, give people value way above and beyond what they're giving you money transactions for. And then Patrick Bet David, Patrick Bet David really has a lot of great teachings about how to build with purpose, right? How to invest in core people around you. And they may not all be people that are giving you something back, but you've got to invest in people so that they can go on and invest in other people. And you're building something that's so much bigger than yourself. And Carson, I keep doing what you're doing because I see that in the things you do, the passion that you have and the way you show other people love. Like that's going to be a big part of how you move forward in the future. And I'm not a prophet or anything. I'm not trying to say that, but you can see when people have passion, when they're growing and moving in a direction, eventually those things come. But man, I'm honestly, I've had a lot of meals with people that at the beach that were just a sandwich or something simple. There was so much more in it. There was so much more value in it.
Yeah, I mean, you just reminded me of like that kind of thing we started with. Well, which I brought up, which was it's the perspective, right? If you look at that bologna sandwich, like this sucks. Like I wish I was in a different place right now. Like this is all bad. Then it will suck. But if you're like, hey, this is part of the grind, and at least I have this sandwich, and my friends around me, like this is good. Then you can go to sleep that night in a better place. Wake up and do it all over again. And so, yeah, man, extremely encouraging words from you. This whole conversation was awesome, and not at all the direction that I planned on it going, but I believe that was the man upstairs.
That's right. No, as often as you want a fellowship, I'll be glad to fellowship. And that was the point that I lost a minute ago. It was perspective. It doesn't matter whether you're in your 20s or you're in your 40s or you're in your 60s, right? Like the KFC got started by a guy in his late 60s, and look at the massive scale of it. But perspective. People ask me how my day's going, and one day I'll share something with you. Like we've walked through two really heavy things in the last 5 years, like heavy things that would make most people doubt life, just give up. But people ask me how my day is, and I say outstanding. And then they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, that's my minimum on a bad day. That's where I start. So good luck catching up, So it is perspective. And if you choose your perspective, because it's your choice, ultimately at the end of the night, when you're by yourself and you're alone and there's nobody around you to put a hand out for you or to give you something or invest in you in any other way, what is really inside of you? What is Carson really made of? What is Michael really made of? And I'm made of nothing more than the grace of God and the love that, if I'm obedient or not. And he said obedience was better than sacrifice. So, we should be obedient and go forward and bless other people and love other people and really give people value through fellowship. And man, together we'll build some really beautiful things. Yeah, man, I look forward to some more in the future if you let me.
Oh yeah, of course. Your first ever podcast that I've hosted, and it was a complete honor, a genuine honor, Michael, to have you as the very first person I've ever interviewed outside my team member. who he interviewed me. So yeah, this is the first interview, and we'll be putting it on all social media. So if you're watching this, you're probably watching it on Facebook or Instagram or something like that. And if you're in the Wilmington area and you need your garage door repaired, installed, fixed, this is your guy. Clearly, you shouldn't need my word for that at this point. But hey, I've got to wrap it up. I know this is kind of an abrupt ending, Michael. We'll catch up soon. And to everyone who else watched, thank you for watching.
For sure. Thanks, Gary Carson. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.